Hello, everyone. Welcome to the First Pencil with Kathi and Mike. My name is Mike, the car guy. With me, as always, my best bud, wicked awesome car gal, friend to horses everywhere, Kathy Cruz. Hi, Kathy.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Hi.
How you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. How about you?
Excellent.
Our
Excellent.
weekly meetup.
Yes, I look forward to it. You may not know because you're listening to a podcast, and it's not live. Obviously, we record it and we upload it, but we're a day off. This week kind of got away from me, so we had to push our recording from Thursday to Friday. So sorry for that.
Well, I sometimes I get sidetracked and I'm not able to get the show notes together and publish it in time. So,
That's okay.
but oh well, things happen.
You always do, and we get it up there, and people listen in. Over 1,000 times it's been downloaded, so someone's listening, and that's super cool. We thank everyone that's listened to even one episode and willing to give us another shot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are
Lots
we
of
going to
things
talk about
happening.
today?
There's lots of things happening in automotive.
As usual, as usual.
Always, right? But
Yeah.
today's July 21st, 2023. We're midway through what they would call the summer selling season, the season between Memorial Day and Labor Day, which is the meat of the year for car dealers, and it's starting to get a little bit interesting out there. I tweeted a couple days ago that I saw a post from Reuters that shared that the percentage of applicants for car loans that are being turned down is rising and rising at a rapid rate. And since then, I've seen two other headlines from pretty big sources saying the same thing, and I'm wondering, is this something we should be discussing more? Is this something that we need to acknowledge, because it's kind of a perfect storm, right? You got all of this tremendous negative equity that's going to start coming back into the market from 2 3 years ago,
Mhm.
when people were paying 5 10 $25,000 over MSRP for vehicles, um, coming back into the dealerships trying to trade in those cars. The lenders are now getting a little bit tighter. Interest rates are still pretty high. There's a lot of things going on. Loan defaults are going up. People being late on their car loans is at the highest rate that it's ever been since they started recording it. So, is this a perfect storm for things to get really, really tough for dealers? And how do dealers pivot and adjust in this type of market? I shared with you just before we hit record. I actually was talking with a dealer in the Midwest the other day on a non-related subject, but inevitably car guys start talking shop, right? We start, hey, what's going on? How's the state of the business? What's happening with you? And he was saying that they've found some amount of luck trying to get creative and help their customers, because people are going to want to buy cars. They don't necessarily know that they're $35,000 buried. They don't necessarily, they just know, oh, little Susie is going to go to college in the fall. We need to get her a car to commute back and forth. So they go to their dealership, they try to trade in a car, and the dealer says, you got 30 grand negative equity. Oh, we don't have any money down, or we don't have close to that. Well, what's really, well, we just need a commuter car for Susie who's going to college. They've contacted a couple of local credit unions in their area, and multiple times they've been able to refi the customer's existing loan on their car. So drop a payment, let's say from $800 a month down to, let's say, 550, right? That frees up $250 in their budget, their debt to income rate. Now a bank will look at them a little bit differently because things are different. They've already been used to paying $800 a month.
Mhm.
So if they can get a payment of 250, that gets them that extra car without increasing their budget or straying it any more than they're already used to. And it's a way to help. On one side, yes, it's kind of continuing elongating that obligation on a car that's not going to be worth that much, but it still helps the customer on the other hand, because they can say, no, I can't help you. And the customer goes home still wanting and needing a car. Or they can say, this is how we can do it. It kind of sucks, but this is, a bullet you got to bite to get the car you're looking for, and we can still help you out. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening out there.
Yeah, yeah. Something that we already kind of talked about a long time ago.
We've been talking about it for years, right? And now inventory is starting to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So vehicles are going to start sitting around a little longer, which means the factory is going to have to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
So you start seeing right now, Ford, has got 3.9 for 60 months on F-150s. 20 years ago, that would have been cause for celebration. But right now, it's like 3.9,
Right.
60 months on a $65,000 truck. How is that even you can't even really call it an incentive.
Mm-mm.
It's not even worth advertising. Should I create a post for that? No. Who's gonna even pay attention to that?
Well, if you need a truck, you will, but because the market is the market. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it just driving yesterday, and I feel like there's going to at some point be a need for the special finance departments that a lot of dealerships had in the, like, I would say early 90s ish. Was that when
That's
it
when
was?
I was in special fi mid 90s, 95, 96 is when I
Yeah, like
did my
91,
stint in special
92 up
finance.
there. Yeah. And where I get, because in some circles I'm known as the queen of small claims and collections. And it just came from, like, okay, you guys are not going to collect this money, I'm going to collect it. So, but I feel like, because a special finance department is very different than a regular finance department, and there's metrics there and things that you have to do differently. And I just feel like it's a whole different business model. And I just wonder how
It's a
many.
whole different type of sale.
Yes, you're selling the contract. You're really not selling the car.
The opportunity to rebuild your credit and have transportation
Mm-hmm.
while you're doing that. And the customers, you didn't, when you invited them to the lot, it was set on appointment. You met them, brought them into your office, discussed all the opportunities that you could show them, walked them out and showed them the cars that they were allowed to
That
look
they
at.
could
And it
that they
sounds
could
bad,
afford.
but it's like, here's the car I would like you to purchase, the best opportunity. Here's another one. And then that one leaning up against the wall over there, that's your third option. And that's really well, I want a new, no, no, you don't. These are your three right here.
But some of them were very happy in that they
Yes.
were able to get a car at all.
And rebuild their credit. And that's how you build that long-term business out of your special finance
Yes.
department, is you help somebody that's in a tough situation
Mm-hmm.
reestablish, keep in touch with them over the
Mm-hmm.
course of the next 18 months, 2 years. You want that guy coming back because now he's kind of reestablished. He's been demonstrated a consistent on-time payment schedule history.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can get that guy into the car he wanted, and you're the hero, which means all his friends and family are going to know, hey, the reason I got this new Mustang was because Mike at ABC Motors helped me get reestablished. Remember that beater I was driving for a while? Well, that got me to this point where I could get
Yeah.
this one.
It's a dark business. You have to wallow around in certain areas that you don't normally in the automotive retail space. But if you're willing to do that, like, I can see repo guys, I can see that being a big business in the next year-ish.
It is now. Repo rates are
Right,
higher than they've ever been.
right. I can see that climbing. I
Those guys are
just
actually capitalizing because they're getting creative and they're making
Right.
TikTok and YouTube and Instagram videos
Yeah.
showing some of the challenging experiences they've had going out to, repossess these vehicles. And
Yeah.
that's, people are fascinated by it, by watching these people. So they got two sources of income now.
Yeah. I honestly, there's a lot of money you can make from that business model, but you have to really know what you're doing. And there has to be a attention on it, honestly, 24/7. And I remember we had this gal, Callie, she was kind of in the trenches with those customers, kind of, if you can call it that. You know how a customer base or a target audience, the person has to kind of be like them, and she spoke their language, oh my gosh, and she was so good at it. But I remember we had a stack of return checks that was 3 inches high, just a stack of checks. I mean, how many checks is that? And the key to it was you just got all the money, all the profit you could possibly make, you got it up front. And if you took a check, if you were able to collect it, that was gravy. And that was, I'm like, I looked at that going, you know what? I'm going to try and collect all that. And I was pretty good. I have to say, I got really, really good relationships with, on a first name basis with the people at Small Claims Court in Glendale, California. And elsewhere, Van Nuys too. Van Nuys. Oh my gosh, I made this guy one time. Oh my God. He was so mad. He was so mad. And he owed us $3,000. And I had offered to give him like a settle with him, and he wouldn't settle. And he owed us the money. And so I had to go up the the Van Nuys court is like a tall building. And whereas most courthouses aren't tall buildings, but I had to go like up to the 10th floor or something. And I go up and he was so mad. The veins were bulging out on his head, and I thought, okay, I better let me just get the judgment and then, take out let me leave. But he took out before me. So I just didn't want to be in the elevator at the same time as the guy. And the way that this worked, because he was like, no way was he going to pay. He's like, I'm not paying, I don't care. But and so he owned a business, which I had already learned. I had this really great gal that worked for the sheriff's department, LA County Sheriff's. She's so good. And she told me that he's got this business. It's in Van Nuys. And what you can do when they owe you money, you have to wait 30 days or 35 days and for them to pay. And then when they don't pay, you can get a thing called a keeper. And the marshal goes to the business and stands there and waits until money comes in and they collect it. And so I did that, and he paid right away. So I have many small claims stories like that. But yeah, I think that we're going back to that. I just think you've got people can't afford how expensive new cars are. So maybe they're going to be able to get in a car, but are they going to make the payments okay? And then used cars, the price on used cars aren't, how are you going to find a beater car? Back then, small, special finance, you need to get beater cars. Beater cars, for
Right.
those that aren't in the car business, are cars that are like 10 grand and under.
10 to 12,000 that you're
Yeah.
in 80% a book or less. Those
Yeah.
are the cars that you're looking for sci-fi.
Yeah. And not much of that around these days. So I don't know how it'll all shake out, but it ties into, just quickly, that I'll mention, because we were talking before we recorded, that AutoNation just this morning, they had earnings call, must have happened yesterday. Their revenue for the second quarter ended June 30th, is 6.9 billion, and it was flat for the year. But in normal day-to-day dealership operations, revenue isn't that important to most of regular people that work at dealerships. It's just, the amount that you sold the cars for. What matters more to car dealer people is gross profit, and their gross profit on new cars is down 25%, and used car gross profits down 2.3%. 25% is unbelievable. And used cars is at 2.3, which is really not great either. Even a small amount is not.
On the same business, you lost a quarter of your profit.
Of your gross. And so their net income, and I think I remember they said they were taking a $14 million hit for something. I don't remember what. So their net income isn't, I would say, isn't trued up to just dealership operations, because they took this right off. But it was down 28%. Net income, AutoNation net income down 28%. But gross profit, to me, is the big tell. Yeah, and like we were saying before, the 25% down. Any business that's got 25% down in their gross profit, you have to worry about. That's the difference between gross profit. For those that aren't in the car business, gross profit is the difference between the cost of the vehicle and what they sell it for. So that gross is very, very meaningful. And if it's down 25%, a factor in that is that just for the last 3 years, cars were going for over MSRP. So I guess that would be natural to have a decline in your gross, but 25%. So
Could that be called a correction or a loss?
I think hard to say. Probably, I mean,
Some both.
I think definitely both, and not to bash AutoNation, but the way their stores operate is very different than
Right.
some other dealers.
And typically, when you see something like that from a company, the next thing is, the headline of layoffs and
Yeah, yeah,
um, restructuring the
yeah,
executive teams and management, boards and all these things. So,
yeah. It's always the rank and file that get hit the worst, and so that's. But how do they do that when they never really recovered from downsizing from COVID? Like, there's a lot of vacancies at dealerships that I see. So I don't know exactly how that works. I think they're just going to have to eat it and see what happens next quarter. But their stock's down. Like it says in the article, 11% down, but who knows what it is
well,
right
that's one thing I hear. I'm on the phone and on Zoom meetings and conference calls with dealers all day, every day during the week, and there hasn't been a single dealership in the last 6 months that says, yeah, I'm fully staffed. We're running with a full team. Every single one of them. And what's
now.
what's interesting is they all say it like it's new. Like,
Yes.
like I haven't heard from anybody else. I don't know about anybody else, but man, we're sure
Yeah.
dying for technicians and service advisors and our sales team. We got 3 guys on the sales floor. We normally have 8, you
Hmm.
know, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, I heard that same thing 14 times this week already. But I go like, oh wow, that's really tough
Yeah.
for you guys. You know,
Yeah.
like it's only affecting them, and they're not realizing that, dude, you're in the same boat as every other dealer I'm talking to. And
Mhm.
sometimes I don't get it. I started in the business 35 years ago, not to date myself, but I started in the business in 1987, starting at a dealership. I was a tune up and drivability technician. I enjoyed working on cars. I was lured by the easy money and flashy life of sales, and obviously that corrupted me. But
Or
nowadays,
so you thought.
yeah, so I thought. Nowadays, a technician, it's a very, very lucrative career. It is
Oh,
a
yes, it
career.
is
I
very
mean,
much.
there's techs out there that are making 90, 100,000,
Hmm.
120,000.
Hmm.
The hours are pretty decent.
Hmm.
You're not working
Yeah.
until closed at night. um, you can really command your own kind of paycheck if you're good at what you're doing. In fact, diesel technicians, especially at Ford stores, if
Hmm.
you have an expertise in diesel,
Oh, yeah.
you can shop your services. You don't have to just take a gig. I mean,
Yeah.
you are a commodity,
Yeah.
and you have a value to dealerships. So it's a really good opportunity that doesn't necessarily require a college education.
Hmm.
you know if you've got that natural interest in fixing things and working on cars, that's something you can build into a really, really great career. Most dealerships offer benefits,
Yeah.
closed on major holidays. The service department is closed on major holidays. The
Yeah.
sales guys may be hanging out on Memorial Day when they could be,
That's right.
at the family barbecue, but the technicians, they're at the
They're
barbecue.
home. They're at the barbecue. Yeah. Yep. And gosh, yes, if you're a diesel tech, you can write your own ticket on, honestly. Honestly.
It's a good career. So
Yeah.
I understand the challenge dealers are having. But I tell people all the time, especially younger folks, my son's in college right now, and I want him to achieve great things. But some of his friends have decided college isn't that path, and there's a lot of open paths for him, a lot
Yeah.
of great opportunities.
Hmm. But it is a good career. And I've got a friend of mine that's a mobile tech, and he stopped being a mobile tech because ITT hired him to teach. They can't find teachers, and he can honestly, he's loving life because he always wanted to do that. And of all places, they reached out to him via LinkedIn. He had a LinkedIn profile, and so they reached out to him. He's doing that. They had Boeing came and talked to them because Boeing's looking for aircraft technicians that can make so much money.
I think, yeah,
And there's such a shortage. It's a huge shortage, huge. So yeah, that's if you can, you know, I mean, it's not, there's this misconception about a car tech and how their grease is, greasy all the time and all that, but it's not really the case. It's a pretty good gig. And like you say, it does have good hours. You're home every night and you get your
yep.
lunch, and yeah, not like sales. Uh-uh. Or you're lucky to get your lunch for like to shove it in your pie
Right,
hole.
you're eating on the go, yeah.
Right.
Lunch hour.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think I
so
saw.
I just have a bit of a story that has to do with listening to your customer and being focused on your customer.
Sure.
Um, I like to tell stories that illustrate the difference. And um, as you know, I worked with a client a few months ago that uh, shall we say, isn't the most mentally stable.
You're
Uh,
talking about Hellscape Motors.
Hellscape Motors, that's right. Someday soon, some story is going to be from who knows where. You name it, and the story will come. Whether it's the DMV or
Better Business Bureau.
or Better Business Bureau or labor relations or the factory or the bank, uh, any one of a number of, I'd say at least a dozen places where things could happen. Bureau of Automotive Repair. Anyway, he's, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call him a narcissist because he's, I've worked around enough of them and I know the traits. I'm not a doctor, but when you work around enough of narcissists, you get to learn the traits. And so what happened was I worked there for 3 months roughly, and it was terrible. And I had to go there. I had to be physically at the dealership to
And to
implement.
clarify, you were contracted, so
I
it's
was
not like
contracted
for a
to,
job and you got hired at a
yes,
dealership.
their CPA, who's someone I know, uh, referred me. And usually when that happens, it's basically I go in, I clean up things, and I set some processes in place, and it's all good. But the relationship between the CPA, that's someone I know, and this dealer was new. And so it was represented to him that things were a mess. But it wasn't, they didn't even use that term. It was more like a few things need cleaning up. I'm like, okay, sure, go in. Yeah, well, I went there on a Friday, and by the following Wednesday, I pretty much had it figured out that it was, oh, I, I don't even know what to say, the worst situation I've ever seen by far. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of really bad situations. So I lasted 102 days, and when I left, it was I knew it was not going to be pretty when I tried to leave, but I did. And so what ended up happening, it was early May, and I ended up, as an entrepreneur, you have to be very aware of how you are behaving. I do. I've always like I've practiced the way that to look at how I behave. And when I'm behaving differently, I'm like, why does that happen? Right. And so it took me a couple of weeks even to just get back to like coherent, like focus. And now I'm in a situation where I'm like, what do I really, really want to do? I mean, I have a few clients, but I have an opportunity to do something different, not too different, but just something. Not that I don't want to do that kind of work, because let me tell you, I loved doing that work, cleaning up stuff and making
Digging in and
processes.
solving problems and
That is
things.
my jam, baby. I love it, but not under that situation. It was
Not in
very,
that kind of
very
environment.
difficult. Yes. It takes a toll even on the most confident person. I can't, it's, if you read up about how it is being around narcissists, usually there's a lot of media books, information around where it's a love relationship or some type of like male female, or male, or not even male female, but just some type of where it's a love relationship and domestic abuse and that type of thing. That's usually where you see it most prevalent, but it is in the workplace. And so that's the story. So I've been thinking about what could I do, and I have my little practices, and I meditate and I do yoga and I walk and I do all of those things I got to do, and I keep listening to good podcasts that help me figure out how I want to move forward. But I was thinking yesterday, like, oh wow, I think I had this technique done a few years ago. It's called EMDR, and it is a it's a therapy, but it's very quick acting, and it has to do with your eye movement. And the EM of the DR is eye movement, and I forgot what the DR rapid. I can't remember. I always get mixed up on those. But anyway, they listen to you about the issue you're having, and then they use a tool that gets you to just follow the like they say the end of a pencil, but it isn't really. It's more like a little wand thing. But you just look at the end of it, and as they're talking to you, they're moving it back and forth across just parallel with your eye, so you can look at it and you just follow it back and forth. And there's something about your brain that gets caught in certain circumstances, and it breaks that chain of thought. And it works so awesome. It worked so awesome. So last night I reached out and wrote an email to the gal that I had worked with before. And okay, so I'm dealing with, this morning I've got a diabetic cat, so I got to deal with special needs kitty. I have another cat as well. So and then all the other things that we all do in the mornings, right? And here comes a phone call. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's from the lady that had helped me, the therapist. And so here's where it gets weird. So I said, "Oh, you must have got my email." "Oh no, I didn't get an email." "Oh, why are you calling me if you didn't get an email?" "Oh, I saw you call." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't call." Okay, so first of all, just to point out, and from a customer relations standpoint, when you want to reply to a customer, reply in their language. My language is email.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't want a phone call at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's the last thing I wanted. Then, okay, so I can get past that, right? And so she says, "Well, tell me why you want to see me." I'm like, "Well, did you read the email?" "Oh no, I didn't get the email." So I started trying to tell her what I just told you guys, the really Reader's Digest version, because trust me, the story could fill a book. And she kept interrupting me and saying, "I don't want to hear. No, I don't. Tell me that. Tell me why you want it, why you need me." I'm like, okay.
I'm trying to.
I honestly didn't know what to say, because nothing was coming out of my mouth, because I was like trying to think about, what do I even do with this woman? If I told you in the email, it was a few sentences, I mean, maybe 2 paragraphs of what happened. And I just want to come see you and have, So then she starts in about how it's connected to my childhood. And maybe it is, but listen, I'm a fucking business owner that has been a fucking business owner forever. I am not your average Joe. I spend a lot of time working on myself so that maybe it is connected to something in my childhood, but at the end of the day, I wanted to talk to her because I just wanted to move past the little bit that was left, because I'm seeing that I'm having a little bit of an issue trying to determine which way I want to go with my business. It's basically that. I'm just looking for information to help guide me. I'm perfectly fine of like how to suss it out strategically, right? My brain thinks that way. And so then she tells me to write some of these things down and give her a call back.
You're like, "I did. I emailed it to you."
That's what I said. I said, "Please look at your email." And after I'd already said it like 10 times, she said, "Well, a phone call's better than email." Well, maybe to you it is, but not to me.
Right. Right.
And so anyway, enough of my ranting. But at the end of the day, I just started thinking about, we want to communicate with a customer in their preferred venue. If someone emails you, email them back and ask them if they could have a phone call, because that's would have been the appropriate thing. Just we can set up a time to talk, or let's just, why talk to me for free if you're a therapist? Because I'm thinking about the other person. Like, why don't I just come in and pay you?
Right. Yes.
But instead, she wants me to write out stuff and call her back. Like, I don't want to talk. I'm not interested about my childhood. And we had to give a little bit of a more color in the commentary. That had been a subject back before when we talked because I had seen her 4 years ago. And I get that part of it is that. I get that because a lot of the things that happen to us in childhood, when they happen again in adulthood, and we have trouble processing them. Sometimes it can relate back to how you felt when you were younger. I'm totally okay with that. It's just that when you're analyzing me without even reading the email that I sent you,
Right.
and so just if I think it's this. I think it's the most important thing to communicate with a customer the way that they want to be communicated and give them not everyone is in cookie cutter. It isn't really cookie cutter. That's a myth. And so if someone's further along in their, let's say in their car buying journey, and they've already sussed you out, they've already figured out that maybe you have good reviews or maybe you have shitty reviews, but they figured out something, or maybe you have a car they want and maybe you have shitty reviews, but you have a car that they want, they're willing to look past that. There's components of making a decision and buying a vehicle. But whatever way they reach out, text, phone, email,
Respect
social
that.
media, respect that. Just communicate that way. And then if you want to take it elsewhere where you're more comfortable, as this woman was more comfortable with her phone call, take it, just say, would you mind if we talked on the phone, or can we set up a time to talk? Had she done that, I wouldn't be so agitated about it. Or I
Right.
would have I will never talk to her again. Never, never. And it's
And that
unfortunate.
philosophy transcends that engagement. It
Yeah.
applies to everything.
Yeah.
I remember as you're talking back 2005 to I would say 2009, internet sales was still in a mystery growth state, and I had demonstrated some expertise in that. And one of the fundamental reasons was because exactly that. I was training my teams to respect the medium that the customer chose. I felt if a
Yes.
customer went through, and back then it was a lot more challenging to request information. You had to fill in all the boxes and all the things,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of trainers that were making big money out there saying, forget replying with an email because you're just going to give them a price, they're going to take that price, go someplace else. Always call, just pick up the phone and call. My philosophy was read the lead, take that extra 30 seconds to read the especially the comments. And like you said, there's no cookie cutter method. I didn't have like a bunch of templates. Each of my emails was typed out for that customer. If
Yep.
a customer says, hey, I picked out stock number X917, it's a 2005 Accord LX, can I get your price on it? I just send them the price.
Yeah.
Here's my price. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Let's set up a time you can come in and look at it. Have you driven one? All these things. If a customer said, I'm just thinking about Civics, my email was like, I'd love to tell you more about Civics. There's a lot to go through. What's the best time to reach you? Or if you like, you can call me at this number. I would try to move it, but I would respect that effort. If they took the time to go and send me that information, I would reply with that same. When texting came out, I found texting was pretty handy,
Mm-hmm.
even though it kind of violated that. If they sent the email, I got the lead, right, the customer's information through email. If I send a text, that still gives them the option to reply back
Yes.
rather than just picking up the phone. And then I also would factor in that lead a lot of times was getting sold to 3 to 5 different dealerships, and all those guys were racing each other to be the first ones to call the customer because
Yeah.
that's what was being trained. Everybody was like, call the customer, forget emails, you'll lose that battle every single time. But I was winning it. My team was rocking it
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't necessarily so hyper focused on my response time that I sacrificed customer service to be the first.
That's right.
Because if you give the customer quality information, that's going to be closer to winning that engagement than just rapid engagement.
What you said, it's the word respect. Had this woman respected me, I just really feel like it's not like I'm out here like you have to respect me. I know what my end result is, and I know what my feeling is of how I was treated. And you called me early in the morning, and I forgot to mention too, her phone wasn't even working. She was said, "Oh, I'm in a rental house, and let me get my other phone." It's like, oh my God, could you be any more unprofessional? Oh my God.
Wow.
And it's just, it's the respect for the customer, and
Right.
they remember that. And I will never forget today's, interaction. But I also never forget really positive interactions. When I've had a really positive interaction, I never forget. In fact, not only do I never forget, but I refer as many people as I can to that. I try to shout it from the rooftops because there's such poor experience these days, and uh,
Poor has become the norm. So when you get
it's
great
become the norm. Yes.
experience, it's such a you know a exception to the rule.
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, that's a way to stand out, is to behave the way you're talking about, to address the customer in the way that they want to communicate first. And then ask them, is it okay if we talk? And they might say, no,
Yes,
I want to stick to email. Okay, cool. Yeah,
not a problem.
yeah, not a problem.
And then be willing to do that.
Yes.
I honestly, back then, I had, gosh, like 17 different email addresses that I just created, right? Because I was mystery shopping, because I wanted to see what other people were doing. And I learned from it, what not to do a lot of the times, because I was seeing stuff that's like, oh my God, how was who responds to this, and I would engage back with people, say, hey, can we do this over email? No, we can't. I can't send pricing.
Mm.
It's not our policy. You have to come in. Or, the best prices, I swear to God, I had someone email me one time. The best price is the one you'll say yes to. To get that price, come on down.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just like,
And
wow.
dude, that might have worked during COVID when cars were scarce and people couldn't get a car. But we are fastly approaching a whole different world where you are not in charge of that. And I'm only smiling because I know that this is going to thin the herd.
Yes,
There's
ma'am.
already just an overload of very terrible dealership employees that are treating customers poorly. And
I'm gonna need to get that professionalism back. And
yeah.
in addition, professionalism in the special finance department as we see a
Yeah,
resurgence of sci-fi managers across the
that's
country.
right.
All right, we're looking at the time. We're trying to keep on track. Both of us got stuff to do, so let's wrap it up with something fun and musical.
Yeah.
Kathi, what do you got musically?
I have two quick things that I just that came across my radar. I don't know if you guys follow Jack White on Instagram, but you should. Jack White from the White Stripes. He had recently, just I think 2 days ago, had shared a post of a gentleman that was converting. Okay, so Jack White had purchased the first ever Elvis recording, Elvis Presley, not Elvis Costello, Elvis Presley recording from Sun Records in Memphis,
Wow.
and he purchased it at an auction, and it's on vinyl. And so it was a video of this archivist transferring it to digital, and it's just so fascinating. And so it's so good to hear Elvis's voice singing when he was so young, and oh my gosh, so good. So
That's
definitely
fascinating.
check out Jack White's. It's official Jack White is his handle on Instagram, and it's just a great follow. I love the White Stripes. I love Jack White. I think he's doing honestly, I think he's doing more work for music preservation than anybody in the world, honestly. Okay, so the second is that just the other night, this gal that I follow on Twitter, Pamela Chellen, she writes for, what does she write for? I think Rolling Stone, but Billboard. She writes for Billboard. She was at the Roxy, and Dogstar was at the Roxy. And I'm like, Dogstar, where have I heard of Dogstar? And so she had her phone, she was taking videos of Dogstar. Well, the reason Dogstar, sorry, is on my radar is because Keanu Reeves is their bass player. And I
And the
got,
Roxy is one of our shared favorite
yes,
venues in all the land.
yep, yep. It's a great venue. It's just a great venue. It's small. I didn't even know they were there, or honestly, I would have,
Wow.
because the last time I was at the Roxy, I saw X, and it was awesome. But as you and I share, the audience sometimes isn't quite as amenable
Awesome.
to, yeah, isn't quite as awesome. But this audience looked really great, and she shared about, I'd say about 6 or so videos of them, and it was great.
That's
It was
awesome.
great. They sounded
Super cool.
awesome, and I am just at that. And that to me, like, Twitter is dying, but like I can follow Pamela, and she's going to share a video of Dogstar at the Roxy, and I'm just going to always.
Those are the reasons we're actually still there, even though we
That's why I'm still there.
acknowledge it's a cesspool in so many ways. There
Yep.
are still some nuggets of pure goodness that make it
Yep.
worth logging in here or
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Definitely. Well, my nugget is actually kind of a throwback. We'll call it Flashback Friday. Yours are current and wicked awesome. Um, Today is an anniversary that's kind of important to me. 22 years ago at Irvine Meadows, which is not even there anymore. Irvine Meadows
Yeah.
used to be a very nice concert venue here in California.
Yep.
Open air, amphitheater, just, I mean, legendary. I've seen hundreds, not even exaggerating, hundreds of acts there.
Hundreds.
But it was the California stop of a new festival that Perry Farrell, the lead singer from Jane's Addiction, had created in his brain called Lollapalooza. And it was what made it interesting was they brought a different mix of acts together. And I'll read them all real quickly here. But the reason he wanted to bring fans from hip hop and heavy metal and new wave and industrial. He wanted to bring everybody together because he felt everybody could learn from each other and share from each other, and it would help, break down barriers. You won't dislike the guy next to you once you realize that, even though he looks different than you both like the same band.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes him cool, right? Or her cool. So the concert series was legendary, and it still lives on in a tiny way. But for this iteration, the Rollins Band, Butthole Surfers, Ice T, Nine Inch Nails, Living Color, Susie the Banshees, and then Jane's Addictions, because it was
Nice.
Perry's idea. And
Nice.
that was the last time. The reason it's important to me, not only was it a great concert and it was an interesting event, I bought the tickets to see Susie. I didn't know what the experience was going to be. I just wanted to see Susie. I've always been a huge Susie fan. I'm undyingly in love with Susie Sue. Um, but it was an interesting, really interesting concert. And sadly enough, that's the last time I got to see Susie live, or I have seen Susie live. So 22 years ago, no, 32 years ago,
When
no,
was it?
91, 32 years ago.
Yeah, 32. Wow.
32 years ago. I said 22. It's actually 32 years ago. So happy anniversary to the first version of Lollapalooza.
Yeah, that's right. Irvine Meadows was a great venue. I miss it.
Wasn't it though?
Yeah. Yeah.
Closer to you than me.
Yep. It's like 20 minutes from me. So yeah. Yeah. That's
There is a venue kind of close to that where it used to be. Is called Five Point um, Amphitheater now, but it's a totally different vibe.
totally different vibe. Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. I've been there a couple times. I'm not going to trash it, but it's a totally different vibe. It
Yeah.
doesn't have. Um, I saw really quickly while we wind down on time, when my wife and I were dating, she was a big fan of John Mayer in the
Okay.
very early 2000s, 2001, 2002. We got there, it was still daylight. The band that was playing, they were virtual unknowns, but I really liked the sound. And we had tickets kind of far up. They had written with a black ink marker on a piece of cardboard that was taped to the back of this keyboard. The lead singer was playing a big organ, and it was at the front of the stage, and the band's name was on this piece of cardboard. I snuck down and got through security into where would be the pit area down in front, just to read the name on the thing, because I wanted to know who they were. They were really good. It was Maroon 5.
Wow.
They opened for John Mayer, and they were like,
Oh, yeah.
nobody had heard of it.
I
And I was like,
remember that.
this is a really good sound. I really like this. So, back then we had Napster, and I'm not necessarily proud of, downloading music for free, but I went to Napster. I found a bunch of their
Everyone
stuff and
did it.
downloaded. Next year, they're back opening for John Mayer again, with a couple of other acts. But, by then they'd hit it hard, and the place
Hmm.
was like literally packed. It was a really, really good show.
Yeah. I actually have dawned on me one more quick ad to check out. Susanna Hoffs on
Ugh,
Twitter.
love her. Love her.
Okay, so it reminded me because President Obama puts out a playlist. He put out a summer playlist. I think it was yesterday, but maybe this morning. And the Bengals Walk Like an Egyptian is on it, which is great, right? And so I saw him share it, and then she just wrote right under it, "I'm so honored. Thank you so much." But it reminded me because just like 2 days ago, she is an awesome follow on Twitter, but she might be elsewhere. So check
She's
out.
on Instagram.
Is
I
she on
love her.
Instagram? Okay, so I'm gonna. But anyway, she did a really quick snippet of Eternal Flame live singing with her guitar. Okay, come
She
on.
does a lot of those on
She does a lot
Instagram.
of that, and
They're
it's
the
so good.
best.
It's so good.
Yes.
She's a great follow. So there's another
100%
Instagram
agree.
follow.
Follow Susanna Haas on
Yeah,
whatever platform you're on.
yeah. I feel
100%.
like Instagram is going to get a lot more attention as far as not attention from users per se, yes, but also from musicians that are like, if they're on Twitter, they're going to have to find, because there's,
Other
you can't, it's not sustainable what's going on there. So there, it's going to be, and I think Threads is going to be also a big one. So
I'm liking Threads so far.
yeah.
All right, we're going to be running out of time, and we want to make sure that it's short and sweet for our listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time today. If you've paid attention, we sure appreciate it. If you liked it, we want to know.
Yep. And I am morphing my blog into a newsletter, so would love it if you would subscribe. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's on my website under VIP at the top, and you can just subscribe there. But it's my blog post, but it's also a lot of curated content, somewhat similar to what we do here. Just like follow this person and check out this info, and it's just a lot of good tips and hopefully some actionable tips and
And
advice.
the first two have been pretty good.
Yes, I've Mike has subscribed. I also asked, I'm gonna start asking because a lot of my friends, a lot of people that I know are not subscribed. So I'm going to, that's on my list of things to tell people.
Nothing wrong with self-promotion, right?
I'm adding you to my list so that, because I really want feedback. I want feedback of like, what else do you want to see? What do you need from me? What can I do to help you? That kind of thing. So yeah. All right.
And speaking
So
of that, if you're in the car business and you're going through some challenges, and like we were talking about today, the world is changing. We want to hear from you. We really do.
and we'd like it if you, because we're thinking about this format before we got on, we were thinking about a format of where we invite you on and you bring 3 questions that you want to ask us. And it can be anything that, I mean, anything you think might help you, whatever you're having trouble with, or just in general, or just you want to sit and talk about the car business. But we'd love to hear from people that want to come on and ask us questions, because it's great for me and Mike to talk amongst ourselves, but we like we're not much of like an interview show. We don't mind interviewing people. We love that. But I think that I'd like to really get people that really want to hear from us and get some support. So
We love helping people. We really do.
yeah, we do. That's the one thing we have in common. One of many. All right. So that's it for the show. And we'll say goodbye for now and see you next week. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, folks.